So I'm with Charlotte right now. How are you, Charlotte?
Very good. Enjoying some vitamin C.
Oh, yeah, we are in Sanur right now. It's very beautiful here. Wait, what is that called? Paralayang?
Kite surfing.
Kite surfing, yeah, yeah. So we are in Sanur at very near at Livet Hub Bali, yeah, where Livet is actually the company that is the first that created Remote Skills Academy last year, right, Charlotte? Maybe you tell us a little bit about yourself first before we go on. Who are you?
So I'm originally from Denmark. I have an international background. I've studied abroad. I also have worked abroad for many years. I was in pharmaceuticals. I've been stationed in China and Canada, and also had international global roles. And then I left 6 years ago, corporate world, to have my own life instead of the company's life, and ended up moving to Bali. And then I recently founded my own consulting company. So I do executive coaching, and I do consulting for startups and strategy consulting for corporations, including fundraising and advisory and board positions.
That's amazing. How do you come across Remote Skills Academy?
I know about the Livet through different activities they've done with the startup environment, and at one point, Lavinia, who is the leading partner at Livet, asked me or told me her ideas about the Remote Skill Academy, and I put her in touch with somebody who I knew a little bit about at that time it was the virtual assistant course, and I put her in touch with somebody who was doing that, and then was very excited to hear also that they were working on this and sort of on a giving back some of the skills to the local community here.
When we first met, it was a rooftop event, right? Like women event, and you said that you've been on hiatus for for 3 years. You're not. You just rest in Ubud. Is that correct?
Resting or sort of exploring my spiritual side, you can say. So so I called
Tell
it
me more.
temporary retired. So that was the phrase. So I think I needed to detox maybe from the kind of job I had, and I had a period where I really was rejecting the life I had before, and I needed to feel like there was something else to life, and I was very into yoga, and I still am, and into opening my mind to seeing the world in many different ways.
Now you're becoming very busy, right? Like, what drives you to come back to the world after you spend time in heaven?
I think I was always very good at business and strategy, and I missed maybe it's a kick that you get out of doing business, thinking strategic and solving business problems. So actually it wasn't my intention to go back to full-time work, but I get quite into the work, but I'm working every day to try to get back to a balance and to not get too absorbed in it. But I was so surprised when I started my company to find out how many interesting businesses are actually going on in Bali and in Indonesia. Because my focus for the first 3-4 years was more on the yoga and the spiritual side.
You told me that for right now your clients are not only from Indonesia, right? So, and then after the pandemic, you started to work remotely as well with them. How did it go so far? Like, and do you have any tips to make things better? While working remotely.
I think I actually had several projects postponed when the pandemic started because the clients wanted to do it live, face to face, and that the country the client is in was closed for non-residents, so I couldn't go there. So we kept postponing it, and finally they agreed to do it, and it has some challenges because it's been leadership development meetings and workshops, and of course it's better if you can be in the same room. But in a way, you can say that the pandemic has given birth to these things with people who were usually resistant to it, but who had no options. And therefore, a lot of the resistance is dropped just because of the pandemic, which I think has worked well for me. So I think for me, I think what has been necessary to make it work when I can't be there in person is to have one-on-ones with actually the whole management team in order to make the personal connection through a one-on-one call instead of by the physical presence. So I think building those relations in another way instead of only doing the workshops is quite important.
So what else do you do, like aside from one-on-one to build that relationship, right? Because when we were at the office, probably we have that water cooler moment, sometimes when we have a drink and then bump into someone, the serendipity moment, right? Like, do you have any tips to create that kind of serendipity?
I think for me, I love sharing information because I have a very broad interest. So if I'm working for a client in a specific industry and I come across articles that I know are within their interest, I'll drop them that in a WhatsApp or in LinkedIn or something like that to share it with them, and then maybe have a few forth and back messages where we discuss the content and something like that. So, and me, I'm an introvert, so actually many of these things work out very well for me. I enjoy the not having to travel as well, and I enjoy being able to do things by messages instead, or a supplement to the conversations.
Okay. Let's talk about the part of you that loves to be around a lot of people, as in networking, right? You started NCI, did you? Tell us more about NCI.
So actually, interestingly enough, during the pandemic, a group of Nordic people from the Nordic countries decided to create the Nordic Council Indonesia here in Bali because we felt that there was a need for a business community. We didn't find that, and we wanted to do it with like-minded people from this similar culture. So we founded the NCI. Actually, it's our 1-year birthday this month. So, and we do business meetings once a month where we try to pick 3 different speakers. One from more like policy related, one which is presenting their business from the perspective of what other people can learn from that. And then usually we also highlight a charity that tells us about the work they do, mostly in Bali, but sometimes in Indonesia. And then we also have social events. And what we found quite fast was actually that there are not enough Nordic people to keep this going, because even if we can find 50 Nordic people, they cannot always make it to our event. And we found that also Nordic people were not the only ones who felt a need for this, for a community to discuss business topics. Because when you are in Bali, it's so easy to get into the holiday feeling, but many people have lives here, they have businesses here. And of course, we also have a need to discuss the business problems and get some inspirations that we can use to lift up our businesses.
So from the meetings, people can get a chance to probably get inspired, solve their problems. But have you watched some collaborations going through your community or something else that is good coming out of it?
Yeah, so I think that's the other thing. When you bring people together that have an interest in this kind of community, you also make it very easy for people to connect with potential investors and maybe even potential partners in business. So I can speak for myself. I've invested in 3 companies through people that I've met in the network in the NCI. I also have a board position now in a company that I met through the NCI, and we see what's interesting when we finish the presentation part of our meeting. We have the networking part, and we make a great effort to introduce people to each other that we think could benefit from knowing each other from a business perspective. So we see quite a few successful cases with people having follow-up meetings after our events.
Awesome, because at Remote Skills Academy, I think the power is in the community as well. A lot of people get jobs from the community, right? And now we make it official through our website. We have like remoteskills.academy/community that people can, discuss about things, best practices, because sometimes working remotely is not easy. So you kind of want to, share, yeah? Okay, going back to the social aspect, you mentioned that at NCI there's the business part and then also the community, the social part, right? Which is, I think, it's brilliant, right? Very balanced. Maybe you want to talk more about your efforts in Bali, since the pandemic. Do you have, something you want to share?
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of inspiring people, and actually, even through the NCI, some of the Yayas and some of the NGOs that have presented are quite inspiring, as well as what Livet is doing with the Remote Academy. So trying to, to lift other people up. And I think that's if we are gifted or if we're blessed enough to have a strong background, whatever that background is, if it's born into a lot of money, born with a good mind, born with a good heart, as part of humanity, we have an obligation to help others. And the ones who are more privileged or smarter or have more energy have the obligation to help people that are less so.
So, so you also have been the patron, basically, right? The sponsor for Remote Skills Academy. Thank you so much, Charlotte. And I just want to know, does education is something that is dear to your heart, or you just like the program? And how do you feel after giving? What giving make you feels?
Yeah, so I think I really appreciate the opportunity to give something that's education, because I think education can give more freedom to people. And if you look at an island like Bali that is so highly dependent on tourism, and while I've been here, we've had a Gung eruption and now pandemic, and we can see how fragile it is for a region to be so highly dependent on something like tourism. And I think the freedom that it can bring to some of the participants in the Remote Academy to be able to not be restricted by hospitality, I think it's a real gift, and I'm very happy to be able to sponsor some of these.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. If people want to find you, where should they go?
So they can find me on LinkedIn. Charlotte Cato. I'm sure you'll put it somewhere in writing. I also have an Instagram called Catolosophy, so a combination of Cato and philosophy, and those are probably the best places to find me. My company is called Lead Hard First, and I just initiated working with a website developer yesterday. So I don't have my website yet, but the domain name will be Lead Hard First, and that's of course because I want to do leadership training as well. So as you mentioned, training is dear to my heart. I think, and training is not only the professional skills, it's also skills in humanity and skills in how we can work towards unity in this earth instead of the current polarization.
Thank you, Charlotte. Have a good day.
Thank you, Leah.